rolling.
Welcome back, everybody. Episode 66 of the Jiu Jitsu Dummies Podcast. We're sponsored by Fightback CBD. Get 20% off your CBD order at fightbackcbd.com with code JJD. We're also sponsored by Black Belt Digital Marketing. Anything you need to build your business, websites, Google Ads, graphic design, literally anything that you need, they can help. Check them out at bbdigitalmarketing.com. I've got a little something special here for you guys today, just a little favor from our listeners. I have a friend, his name is John Carlos. If you follow us on social media, you've seen that we've reposted his GoFundMe. Got cancer, just found out recently. Won't go into the details, but he's the main breadwinner in his family, and he needs a little bit of help. If you go to our Instagram, click on the link in our bio, it'll take you right to our link tree at the top. I put the fundraiser there. If you donate $100 or more, I'm going to send you a free podcast mug. Just send me a snapshot of your receipt. We'll confirm. Send me your full name, mailing address, and once we confirm, we'll ship it out. All right. So anything that you could do to help. He's an old training partner of mine. Went from Fight Sports over to American Top Team in Coconut Creek. And great guy. It's got 2 children, so he could use our help. So let's help out one of our brothers. Last but not least, shout out to our newest sponsor, Hernandez Claims, right here in sunny South Florida. George is a public adjuster, which is an independent insurance professional that a residential or commercial policyholder can hire to help settle insurance claims on their behalf. So call George, let him know the dummy sent you. Check him out at hernandezclaims.com. You can even fill out the little form and request a callback. Okay. Milton Campus. I'm a brown belt training out of South Florida. You can check me out on Instagram at Uncle Milty BJJ, or the handle for the podcast at Jiu Jitsu Dummies. We got Bo behind the camera.
Yo.
Miguel's got COVID. Boo. Boo. He finally caught it.
He's got the
We all got it. But let's just dive right in today. Joining us today, we've got our waiting in the wings here. We've got Jiu-Jitsu black belt and fight to win champ. Do you hold the belt currently?
I would have it vacated because it was a brown belt.
Oh, and now you're black? Okay. So fight to win champ and PFL fighter, Brittney Elkin. Welcome, Brittney. How you doing?
Hey, well, thank you. I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing good. Thank you for joining us. A lot to talk about. You've got a lot of things going on, and yeah. So let's do a little bit, kind of start from the beginning, at least of your MMA journey. So let's talk about like the actual getting. We're talking about PFL, Bellator. Getting into the fight scene. Was that something that you always had planned? Was that part of the, when you started training, martial arts, was that in the cards for you?
I mean, I think as a dreamer, like I'm a dreamer and I always dreamt to make it. Actually, I was wishing, because I would fight at 145. I was really wishing to get into the UFC, 10 years ago. That was my huge dream. And I mean, I was just, Bellator called me on a fallout fight. So like, that was like my one big opportunity to like break from, regional fighting into like a main premier fight league. Of course it was always like a subconscious plan to like keep rising. And PFL, they didn't have anybody to fight Kayla and nobody would fight her. And I took the first opportunity. So that's how I kind of broke into there, and they offered me a similar type matchup when I fought Clarissa. I think I just ended up in those places. I'm very happy to be there. But yeah, I mean, I dreamed of definitely getting into a larger promotion since the start of my fight career. So It was kind of a plan, I guess.
So when did you start the martial arts? Jiu-Jitsu, was that the first thing that you did? Or are you like the rest of us? We have some story that our parents put us into Taekwondo when we were little kids.
I didn't start till like I was 21 after my divorce. Oh, wow. I was in Gillette, Wyoming, and I was bartending.
Big scene out there. Big jiu-jitsu scene out there. Right?
I mean, I don't know why you haven't heard of it. But yeah, like I was at a beer garden. I was beer gardening at like the outdoor cage fights.
Okay.
At a bar. And actually the promoter hired Spencer Fisher to be like a person to meet there.
Okay.
And the promoter and Spencer came up to me and kind of was like, wow, you look like a fighter. I was like serving Coronas and they're like, you should come try it. And that was like 12, 13 years ago, maybe. And that's how I got into fighting.
Do you call that beer guarding? Is that what you're calling it? Or is that the name of
garden? I was in like a beer garden. Like, you come get your beer from the Corona cooler is what my job was, like serving $9 Coronas or something. And it was outdoor, and those guys were just like, you kind of have the stature for a fighter and you should try it. And then I took my first fight 3 months after I started training. So,
21 years old, you just start training. For those that don't know, you're 5'11".
I'm 5'11". Yeah, I'm 5'11", and I was doing I was already working out because I was going through a divorce. You know, it's kind of happens like the divorce diet. And I was like, CrossFit was huge. And I was like muscular, I will admit. So like I have that kind of physique, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And this was a long time ago. And they talked me into it. I fought uncommissioned, I think in Spearfish, South Dakota against a flaunt model. That was my first fight.
A what model?
If you've ever heard of the Sturgis, South Dakota rally,
motorcycle.
Yeah. So that's right by the area I'm from, and there's those girls. They're called flaunt models, which basically was sexy models. Yeah. And that was my first fight. I fought a flaunt model.
Bo and I, my producer and myself, we worked on a motorcycle build-off TV show that ran on ESPN2 for like one season. That's how we met. So we're very familiar with the motorcycle rallies and Sturgis. I never went. Did you go to Sturgis, Bo?
No, I've never been, but I've been to
I never went, but we went to Vegas. Bo had
I go to the local ones.
He's a graphic artist, so he had what's that area called?
That's Fremont Street.
Fremont Street. Have you ever been to Vegas? Fremont Street.
Yeah.
The drawer, the digital creation. We were going to build this bike for Fremont Street. It ran in this video on across that whole screen
the
up top.
canopy.
The video screen.
The canopy. It was awesome. We thought we were going to be millionaires after that show.
We should have been.
Nope. I was going to be a millionaire too.
We should have been.
Yeah. So you're out there, and when you mentioned Spencer Fisher. That's Spencer the Kingfisher. For those that don't know, right?
He was like the meet and greet fighter at that show.
Yeah.
You know, he was the coming up person in the UFC at the time,
mm-hmm.
and I think the promoter paid him to do the be an appearance type thing.
Yeah. The P Diddy of at the club.
He's at Wyoming. You know? But he definitely was he was everybody was like, oh man, did you hear the UFC fighters here? And I wasn't even a fan at the time. I was just working.
And you had never trained. You just said you were doing CrossFit.
No, I was just doing weightlifting and stuff, trying to be in shape, trying to be the hottest girl in Gillette, and then
trying to be a flaunt model.
Yeah, yes, a flaunt model was my goal. No, absolutely not. But they just kind of I was so ignorant of what I was getting into at the time. I was I'd get in a cage in 3 months, no problem. And that's kind of what happened. I think I just ran a lot on a treadmill and put my foot in a tire and punched people. And that's my memories. And I ended up not even knowing the rules for my first fight. And I kicked her in the face on the ground. And oh my God, it was a big learning experience, but it just spun the wheel to the next. I fought my first year of ever training. I think I fought 4 times amateur. Wow. And
that's a lot. That's a lot for even an amateur.
Yeah, it was but that was in Wyoming. We didn't have a sanction at that time, and no commission or nothing. You know what I mean? So you got away with these things a while back. There is protective things in place that now. So wouldn't
they have a commission now?
Yeah.
I'm picturing those backyard brawl, VHS tapes that people used to put out.
Outside was one of my fights, and they have those big construction lamps on top of the cage, for lighting, not real lighting. And it was mosquito heaven above the cage,
wow.
Where it that, and you could smoke inside the bars where I fought and stuff. So feels like a long, long time ago, even though it was only a little over 10 years ago. But yeah, it was a big difference than
So you get into the ring after 3 months. At that point, that fight's over. Did you win that fight?
I did. I did. I won that fight. It was it was like the most incredible white belt fight you've ever seen. Just like two girls like just beating the shit out of each other. And I'm actually really still friends with Ryan. I just saw her last summer, so it's kind of fun.
I was going to ask, was she? Did she have more experience, or was she just thrown in there as well?
She speaking of Sturgis, the knuckle saloon fights used to be really big back then. So this was like in Sturgis, it was a bar. And during bike week, you could go put your name on a list and they would match you. There was no sanction there. So she had like 3 or 4 knuckle fights, which is just like basically 2 people in a crowd fighting each other. And I was terrified because I was like, this girl's got so much experience. Just like, what am I going to do? I remember like going to work the night before weigh-ins or something, just crying to all I'm going to get beat up in front of all my friends in Gillette. And yeah, it was just such a different chain of experiences. But yeah, she was, I guess you would say, more experienced. She continued fighting for a while. I don't think she fights anymore, but
so you come out of that fight and you're like, yes, give me more. Like this is something I want to do this.
I do. I was like so persistent about taking more fights. Like there wasn't fighters for me. They kept on having to pull out other Corona Beer Garden girls and then fight me. One of the girls that I fought in that time like ran away from me in the cage. And it's a funny video. Like she like turned her back and like ran in a circle. So like it just was a different time. There wasn't people like in large amounts of women, especially my size training. And I took like a bunch of, backyard brawl type fights that they hooked up in almost all in Gillette. And then I finally got an offer to fight in Denver, which would have been my first sanction bout. And I had to go through all these different things. I was like, oh my God, they want to take my blood test. I like couldn't believe these things because we didn't have them. And my coach told me that it was too advanced for me and I shouldn't do it. So I went and signed up for it without him knowing.
Ooh, shame. Yeah. That's a no-no.
And I went through like my own whole personal camp without him knowing because I was like, I am good enough. I'll tell you I'm good enough. Wow. And then I went down there with like a couple of my training partners. I was like, we're not going to let my coach find out. But, of course he found out on the way down. I got kicked off the team kind of for that. I lost that fight in Denver versus Maureen Riordan, my first amateur loss. And it's a huge learning experience. And that's when I think I officially was like, oh, this is what he meant. I have to like actually do stuff. And I think that's when I really began real training and not just like a couple people telling me, yeah, you're going to beat her up or, just stupid advice that you get when you're naive to something. So
you're one of these fighters. We talk about this a lot here that, like, as we move forward, like MMA, like you're trained in MMA, you came into it and you started learning everything as opposed to somebody who's like, okay, I got to my brown belt and then I decided to put the gloves on. Like you're of that generation that the art is MMA, right? I know it's mixed martial arts, right? But I'm an MMA fighter. Like you wouldn't necessarily say he's a wrestler out of Connecticut, like you don't hear that, right? You really started learning everything at once, which is where I think almost all of martial arts is going to go, right? Like the kids coming up, it's not like, do you want to learn karate or do you want to learn how to do everything that you're going to need to know? I guess from the inside looking out, if I ever had another kid or grandchildren, I would want them to be in a place where they learn everything.
I think we have better, like, obviously we have way more black belts and way more people that have been through the role but we have like better teaching skills as like a whole in the culture and community that like really, like you don't find those same scenarios anymore. I mean, you'll still find those gyms of like lower value type standards towards what they're throwing athletes into. But I think like as a whole, you see these awesome phenom kids come up because like, they have better coaches, they have better training standards, and like the standard as a whole has been raised because the sport's become much more popular. It's not just silly stuff like that in the country, So when you're in there training,
you have those first couple of fights. Do you start to train in the gi at all? Is that something that you did?
So after my first fight in Denver, my first like real fight, I realized that they were outclassed to me in what I was getting, and I packed up my bags and moved to Denver, which is like 6-hour drive south from Gillette. And the first time I ever put on the gi was about 5 months into training in Denver, everybody would come from gi class and then go to MMA, or they come from class, and this was like such a standard. And I noticed all my training partners do it. I was a little timid at first because I didn't know this. I've never worn a gi at that time. I was definitely a white belt. And then my coach gave me the nudge, and he's like, you really need, a base. You don't need to just come in there and brawl. You need a base. And so it really I fell in love with the gi pretty fairly fast. I couldn't recall the exact timeline, but I definitely didn't start till after my first year of amateur fighting. I really just did the most amateur training ever until that point. And then moving to Denver really, really just took me from being kind of interested to actually being oh, this is now a desire of mine. I actually really, really like this. And so it really fell into something I didn't know I really loved,
Yeah.
But yeah.
Do you recommend okay, now you're in the game, you've been in the game for a while now. Do you recommend that gi training to people who just listen, I want to be a cage fighter. I want to be in the UFC or Bellator or PFL. Do you recommend them that they train in a gi?
I am a person that trains now only no gi, but I do really value all the time I had in the gi. I value all the things that a lot of those experiences gave me the skills in this point. And it kind of narrowed me down the path to what I need to know, what I like. It narrowed my path down to this is what I like. This is what I like. This is shown to me. And I do recommend it because it does show a lot of the art. It shows a lot of the discipline, but I do think that if you're driven to be an MMA fighter, or this is your main goal and you're not going to be heavy into jiu-jitsu competing or all the things that come with that you do need a direction for your base, and whether that be gi, jiu-jitsu, wrestling, or something like that. I think you do need to find a focal point and work towards your goal. I think I had I didn't know what I was doing, and I didn't have a lot of direction. I had to narrow it down. If a cage fighter came up to me today, I would say definitely do a lot of no-gi jiu-jitsu and wrestling and all that. But I really value my gi time, and I'll never take off the gi forever. I will always go back to it, and I do love putting it on still. I just don't train it much now because it's not directly what I'm after. Mm-hmm. So that would be my advice is you should expose yourself to all these things because you don't even know what you like until you really have some exposure to it. And I do think it brought me a lot of value doing all that gi.
Yeah.
I used to train it. I competed in the gi up until brown belt. My first year of brown belt, I did IBJJF, and I did a lot of local tournaments and things like that, backsiding of my fighting. And yeah, I have nothing bad to say about gi training. Yeah. I just think you can build your camps however you want. I would always tell somebody to go ahead and just try it on and just try it for a little bit.
Here, come here. Let's put this on you.
Yeah, but jiu-jitsu in large.
It just doesn't right now. Me and my head coach talk about it all the time. It's I'm on a different directive. I hope to fight a few more times. I'm only getting a little bit older. I'm going to put most of my attention to this, and the gi will always be there to put back on when I'm ready again. So that's kind of where I'm at. So what is
that plan before you said it's not what I'm after? When you said I'm not wearing the gi because it's not what I'm after. Where do you see yourself now as far as what's the next step in your journey?
Well, I have I'm doing a couple of finishers matches. I'm going for a title in March, and I have a match against a brown belt no-gi and under the EBI rule set here in February. I want to go to ADCC trials on the West Coast. That's where my three main goals are, those three matches leading to my ADCC, even though the rule sets are different. I'm just, game planning on different opponents. Mm-hmm. I'm trying to fight again. I would love to be in the PFL bracket. I've heard nothing from them, so I'm not sitting here going on dreams, but I do know I'll get another fight. And that's where I really want to go. I think I'm a better fighter now than I ever have been, mostly because I put a direction in my path. I'm not just learning everything or one thing I think I made a mistake on was I think you really need to listen to your coaches, but I take so much advice that I never decided what I wanted. And I think I just always had to hear what other people's opinions were before I said it was good enough for me to go forward. And so the fighter I want to be in the next upcoming years will just a lot of choice and in those. I'm probably not saying that well, but I want to have a lot of like direction from myself.
You want to have a say in what you're doing. You want to have a say.
And so yeah, I definitely want to do a few more MMA fights. And
you're not under contract with PFL though, right? I think the fights you've had have all been single.
The contract is over, or it's over like officially in June. I hope that they look at me for the bracket, because I think it's the best thing for my weight class right now. Like 155 is still kind of it's here, it's there, it's in a couple places, it's not every place. It's, Kayla Harrison has definitely made a more formidable reckoning, like for the whole thing. Along with all the other athletes, but like, I just think it complements my weight class the most. So that's where I'd like to be. And I would like to go after $1 million and all the other things, you know what I mean? But, I do have options as a fighter and a woman fighter in this day and age, way more options than I had 10 years ago. So I'm like not unhopeful to find another fight. My record doesn't help me always, but I have fought all top opponents. So I'm confident I'm going to get another fight this year, and I'm really working towards MMA and the trials, trying to be a submitter and like have game plans that are effective game plans for, a result that is better than before. So that's I'm actually putting a lot of effort into that.
Is there anything specifically you're working on after your last fight that you say, I know I have to work on this?
I gotta work on. Well, I think there was a couple things that went into play with me and Clarissa. I took 2 years off because of my arm break. From Bobby Joe Dazzle broke my arm in my last fight before Clarissa
with a kick, right? You got
I blocked a head kick and it broke my whole ulna in 3 places. Really did a lot of damage. And then coming back from all that, it was like an 8-month till I had I was medically released, and then you have to build up everything else, And I started back in sport jiu-jitsu. So I did have a 2-month span of just doing no MMA. And then when they offered me Clarissa, I jumped right back into camp into 9 weeks and tried to rebuild it. I think I fatigued my confidence wasn't 100% that I could get through like this hard time. And I think fatigue really was the main one. She also hits like a fucking really hard, and everybody gets through that fight. They've obviously never been hit hard enough to have to count over and over.
I think everybody had you winning the first 2 rounds, right?
I really tried. I think so too.
Yeah.
I wanted it. It's the first time I've felt that desire, and I haven't. I think that we all go through the emotional roller coaster of we're awesome and we're bad, and it goes like this. So I've definitely had days where I'm like, oh God, I should never do this again. But feeling that fight for Clarissa, I felt a lot more drive and a lot more, I want to be here. So I've been in MMA since, and I've just been doing it straight. I did message a personal message to Ray Steph. I was like, think of me. And he messaged, I don't know.
Oh, wow.
I messaged Invicta and I said, if they have the weight class of an opponent option, I would love to be an opponent. And I do have connections that I do put some feelers out there right now, but I would have a manager proposal come to one of them as we get more serious. I guess right now I want to do well at trials, and if something comes forward, I'll resort the organization process of that. So
how do you deal with those dips? You said, you go through those ups and downs. What has been the thing that's helped you most in those downtimes?
Cause I'm awesome. I'm killing
Chocolate
it. I'm doing awesome. And then I'll have some really negativities. Remember when you lost to every single person and your record sucks, and you'll go really low, and you can kind of stay in this low before you go back up. I always find reading and disconnecting from my personal, outside world, and disconnecting into something helps me get back on track. So I try to get in reading and journaling, read old journals. I've been a journaler my whole life. So I read some things when I first started fighting, and I made that jump from Gillette to Denver. Some of my things are oh my God, who is this girl that's so excited to learn and do all this stuff? So I try to find myself through things like that. And then I try to actually this is the hardest thing because I'm an emotional person. I run on my emotions. So I try to remove all that and then look at it and as if I was giving advice to a friend, what I would tell a friend, and not try to feel all these personal turmoils. Because as a fighter, you're being criticized a lot. You're being told what you're doing wrong a lot. You're watching video of your mistakes. You're watching your failures, and you can kind of fall into that pit easy. So I just really try to like take a minute and breathe. Sometimes it takes a week to get out of it. There's some real ruts that you run into in the sport, and getting your ass kicked in front of a bunch of people that are critical is hard to come back up.
I would think that I would really, really want to stay away from social media before and after a fight. I would think, but whether you're the favorite, the underdog, and then at the after, whether you won or lost, because even if you win, you're going to have the armchair quarterbacks that are going to just really give you shit for not doing something right. I would think you'd want to stay away from it completely around the time of a fight.
Fuck those guys, man.
It definitely like I ate a lot of criticism, really evil things. You know, this was the first time when I fought Clarissa, I had like, I assumed because the betting was large on us and people probably lost money when I started looking like I was going to win. I got some really, really horrible hate mail, like go kill yourself hate mail. And, you know, like that never was like a problem. I was not like ready to do that to myself or anything like that. But I think like hearing that constantly, it's like, God, you know, you can do that to yourself. So I tried to steer away from it. I went, you know, not too long ago, I went right back down in that fault line of like, God, I'm terrible, because I'm a lot of times in my training circuits, at least once a week, I go with the bigger men because of my body size. I don't always have training partners in my thing. So like these big dudes will just fuck me up, and I'll kind of be like, you know what, I suck and I shouldn't be fighting. And like, I can stay there again. So I just like, there's a lot of self-work in, I think, all martial arts, but definitely when you're taking some brutality to yourself. And I social media can be damning. It can be damning. And then if like PFL shares a clip of me getting my ass kicked, you just like, I try to like skim past that. Like, oh, geez.
You got to take the Rogan approach, post and ghost. If you're going to be in the public eye and be on social media, especially with what you're doing where everybody's got an opinion, you've got to not, you could post and you could look at stuff, but you just can't read the comments. You have to stay out of the comment section. They
can be bad. Yeah. So, and then like I think some things I found out along the way is I have like, you grow these special bonds with people over the time you're on the mat. And somebody very, very close to me was like advertising betting against me because I was such a loser. Like finding out these things, somebody that's like, I thought was a very personal friend was like in a group of my friends, like rooting for me to lose in the second round so they can win. And like, when you hear those things too, like, and then like I straight up asked him, I was like, did you bet against me? And like coming into those things, it's just like it's not just like anything. It's like a really connective thing to like your person. So, I mean, there's a lot to navigate if you're exposing yourself to these kind of things. And I'm still learning. I feel like such a white belt in learning my emotional control sometimes. So it's definitely a process. And I feel strong today. I broke my nose a couple weeks ago on not fighting.
What?
But I feel strong mentally, and so I'm going to try to stay on this plane. I can't promise it's forever. I hope it just grows in the ups. But, you know, we go through a lot of things. And
how did you break your nose?
This is the most embarrassing story ever. I had 2 beers, and I
was going to say something. Was it in a beer garden? Was it beer garden related?
No, it was inside. I was at the famous Patty's in Philadelphia. And it was fucking freezing. It was like 11 degrees or something with the wind up really high. And we were running to our ride. And I put my hands in my coat pocket. And I just went full sprint to the car that we were getting into. And I face planted the concrete. And I mean, my hands were in my pocket.
So you couldn't like brace yourself.
I can't believe that I have teeth. Like, and it was split wide open. And then I don't know if you know who Missy Estrada is. But she used to be one of the owners of Fight to Win Promotions. But
I think I know. Was she the woman that used to put the belt on everybody at the end of the fight? Okay, yes. She's not involved anymore. She's not involved in the organization anymore.
She's not. She does a lot of involvement in the community, but she's not in like initial involvements with Fight to Win.
Is she? I Love Tortillas. On Instagram? Yeah. Okay, I know who she is. Yeah.
So
especially recently.
She's my roommate now. And
really? Oh, that's awesome. Yeah,
in Philly. But I had this huge cut on my nose like 3 days before Christmas. I'm talking like it was a gash. I should have went to the doctor, and I called her and I was like, hey, I don't really want to spend $1,200 at the doctor. You think we could super glue this? And she's like, yeah, come home. And we Instacarted iodine and super glue, and she did this. She put it back together. It was a wide open gash. I have some things on my social media, but she glued me back up.
And your nose is broken, and
oh yeah, it's broken. I mean, like, I've been in enough life experiences to know that it's definitely crooked, which you might not see from the thing, but the sensitivity is so bad. And then I thought I could spar, and I took a punch to the face, and I saw straight white lights. So this was a pretty serious injury. But yeah, Missy saved the day. She put on Johnny Cash Hurts, and we were listening to that. And I think it cost $18 to Instacart iodine and super glue, and that's what we did. That's how we fixed it.
I don't want to go down this rabbit hole, but I knew of her and saw her, on the Fight to Wins. And then when the whole Fight Sports thing broke out, and she became very boisterous, and I reposted some of her stuff and I shared her stuff.
It definitely depends. She works out of her heart, she's like, and then she actually being in the position of a promoter, she had access to a lot of these people in first platform exchanges, and she had a lot of knowledge, and then people confided in her some of their stories, and she definitely knows more about all the situations than I was always like, I don't know all those people, and I don't know all those things, so I didn't have the same information. But yeah, she's a speaker for people who can't.
Yeah. So I trained at a Fight Sports in South Florida, not the main location, so I didn't train with Cyborg or any of those guys. Yeah. I had just interviewed Wagner, and then this stuff came. Wagner and his wife were here in the studio, and then a week later, everything started to come out, and then myself and my co-host, he was training at Wagner's. My co-host just started training at Wagner's, and then I left. We both came out and said we were going to leave Fight Sports. Luckily, my gym walked away completely, reopened under another, just changed the affiliation, and he went to Gracie Weston down here, Henzo Gracie Weston. But anyway, during that time, I mean, I saw a lot of what she was putting out there, and good for her. I have daughters. I have two daughters.
She's done a lot of positives for people, and a lot of the women, she talks to them a lot. So she's a positive community person for sure.
I've got to be honest. We haven't had a lot of women on the show, but I've had Kendall Roosing on the show.
Kendall's awesome.
Had Elizabeth Clay, and I do, I do want to get the perspective of, number one, has anything changed as it relates to kind of those things that are happening in gyms? I mean, again, I don't know how much you know, and, knowing Missy, are those stories still as prevalent as they were before this latest coming out of information?
I don't think you'll ever eliminate all the bad. There's always going to be these people that test boundaries. I do think it raised a lot of awareness that these are real things that we overlook. I mean, even down to myself, I've seen precarious things, and in my stages of my stuff, I just kind of turned a blind eye and left. I'm not saying I watched any girls get hurt or anything like that, and I've never had. Unfortunately, nobody's done these things to me or tried. Yeah. So I don't have a personal story or experience on reflection, and that gyms have always been good to me, and I've always thankfully been around the right instructors, or whoever's right and wrong. I'm not going to argue that. I do think that people are a lot more cautious to dare to try these things, and they know, I think they're at least, it's terrible that it even has to be talked about like it's some kind of we have to learn together thing, but I haven't heard as much. I definitely think it was appropriate to shine light on this, and it is something that happens though in all sports. And I wish, I don't wish it upon anybody, So if it helps anybody to shine light on the girl that brought it to everybody's attention is incredibly brave to do so, because you don't always get that kind of positive response back. I know somebody in the Denver community that got a lot of negative response and still gets taunted in the community, like she just makes up stuff. And you never want to see these things. It's such a terrible topic that if you don't shine light on it, it's terrible. And if you do shine light on it, we all know the terrible. And I I believe that it's better to know about it than to just pretend it's not existent. So I feel for everybody affected. I had a lot of friends that went to fight sports school. I would even say, like, me and Maggie were pretty close through a lot of the competitive career. I've gone against her a lot of times. Cyborg's opened up his gym to me. I never knew anything personal, but I didn't know the stories that were in the background. So who's to say that I definitely don't know everything. And it's just really, I hope it just continues to get better for everybody and less stories, I guess.
Okay. But let's take a quick break. We're going to shout out our sponsors. Don't go anywhere. Hey, everybody. Thank you to DD214 Fightwear at DD214_Fightwear. Gear for patriotic rollers. Get 15% off your online order at DD214BJJ.com with code JJD. Huge shout out to the crew over at DD214, and thank you very much for the giveaway you did. We gave away about 16 tees and hoodies right before the holidays or right before the new year. So thank you for doing that with us, guys. Also, thank you to Feito IT and AV. I got their shirt on today. Got me, Bo?
Yeah.
They specialize in commercial and residential automation, so security cameras, CCTV. They put in the security system at my house. I love it. They're coming back to add on some of the little bells and whistles that I wanted to do. So check them out at Feito, Feito, ITAV.com. So it's Feito, ITAV.com, and let them know the dummy sent you. Big shout out to the Troop Welfare Foundation. They are a veteran nonprofit dedicated to helping veterans find outlets to cope with PTSD, depression, anxiety, and other mental health issues through martial arts, physical training, recreational activities. You know, we talk about it a lot. We know how therapeutic this is for us. Could you imagine somebody who's got PTSD or is really dealing with some traumatic events in their life? So check them out on Instagram at Troop Welfare Foundation and troopwelfarefoundation.org. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share wherever you're watching or listening. If you're watching us on YouTube, don't forget to click the bell to get notifications each time we launch a new video. All right?
Special thanks to Fightback CBD for their support. Head over to their website, fightbackcbd.com, and check out their growing line of CBD products. Find the best solution for your CBD needs and use code JJD to get 20% off your purchase. Stay in touch with them on Instagram at FightbackCBD and tell them the dummies sent you. Special thanks to our newest sponsor, George Hernandez Claims Adjuster. Have you experienced damage to your residential or commercial property in the state of Florida? Water, flood, fire, mold, storms, smoke, hurricane and wind, lightning, business interruption, theft and vandalism, sinkholes? Don't get stressed out dealing with your insurance provider. Call George Hernandez today and let the professionals get you the most compensation possible. Visit HernandezClaims.com or call 305-712-6751 to get help now. And stay in touch with them on Instagram at Hernandez Claims.
That's it, everybody. Let's get back to the show. So we were talking about Missy and we're talking about Fight to Win. Did you meet her at Fight to Win? Because I know you were like, you've called yourself like a jiu-jitsu carny, right?
Yes.
Tell us about your experience with Fight to Win and your travels, because you were with them for quite some time.
I was with them for over 5 years. I just left after the show in Dallas. Due to a lot of it was I get depressed on the road a lot. I've been going, they go something like 46 to 48 weekends a year. And I was doing that straight for over 5 years. I met Missy. I started on show 15. And Missy was my boss and became best friend. We roomed together every weekend and we kind of just lived that, jiu-jitsu carny lifestyle. My son would go on tours with us in the summer. He lives with his dad in the school year. So we had him along and we all became a family, Seth, me, Missy. The old school guys aren't around anymore. There's a new group. They call themselves the Carlitos. And it's an amazing experience. I found myself opening doors to every single school in the country just because I was on the crew. And it really, I wouldn't know half the people that I consider to be my very good friends if it weren't for Fight to Win. they did a lot for me. And Seth is still doing a lot. He has a lot more competitors. Before, we were one of the only ones that did. Sorry, the gym guys are showing up if it gets a little loud.
I heard. I heard it in the background a little bit. It's okay. We got you.
But, like Fight to Win was definitely, I feel, was one of the pioneers in developing like continuous events, showcasing the community, and then really they got you like captivated. It's like, oh, I remember him. He was from Dallas. Now he's fighting in Florida, and they were going everywhere. I think it really gave us some highlight to, and I do believe it's what got me into Bellator. I was competing every weekend on Fight to Win. I'm something like 21-9 on Fight to Win, and then Subversive on Backhand, and then it just kept on opening doors for me. So, I love it. I love it. I'm 35. I'm going to be 36 this year. And I had to make a decision. I got to start building things at home. My career is not as wide open as it could have been, 10 years ago. And so I really had to say that now I feel depressed when I am on the road, not because of Fight to Win, but because I'm leaving goals behind. These are my goals now. And I can only work 3 days a week on those goals. I feel like I'm just abandoning my goals, and I'm dealing with a lot of that. So I called Seth and I said that I need to remove myself, and he was awesome about it. And he's like, you always have a place here if you ever need to come home. And they're going to Atlanta, Oklahoma City, Tulsa. And I removed myself from the Miami show I didn't make, and I was supposed to, but I just needed to focus on me.
So when you were out there, did you did go to gyms, but like, did you get to train as much as you would as if you like when you were at home?
I think it wasn't like we got to train. We'd show up. There's always an open mat on Sunday at some gym. We did a lot of those, but it wasn't like goal-oriented training. Like here today, we were like, let's work on the front headlock. What do you do from the front headlock? What are your 3 go-tos, A, B, C from the front headlock? And like, I just feel like when I'm in my school, I can train with anybody. I can train with a white belt to black belt, but I'm staying on my directive mission to make myself better instead of just going and showing up randomly and being like, let's roll at an open mat. Those both things can make you good. But now when I'm trying to be a better game planner, a better athlete in general, and just all things, I feel like I just am on a more scored mission in that setting, than just being all over the place. Yeah.
I
think they both have benefits.
Are you coaching at the gym that you're at, or do you want to open a gym?
Worst coach ever.
What's that?
I'm the worst coach ever.
Yeah.
I think I help a lot of people, and I think I have advice and I have a lot of knowledge, but coaching, I'm not. I'm bartending and then showing up to practice. I bartend and serve during the day in Old City in Philadelphia, and like right next to the Ben Franklin grave and the Liberty Bell and all that stuff. I'm down there. Cool. And so I'm in like a tourist area in Philadelphia, and then I drive to Bethlehem and I train at 10th Planet Finishers. And I'm not coaching. I'm just trying to be the best Brittney, and I'm trying to be good to my training partners. There's a lot of people just coming up in this gym, and I feel like they offer me a lot and I can offer them a lot. So like, if that's coaching, that's what I'm doing.
So we talked about it before. I don't know if we talked about it on there. I think I asked you right before we came on. You had a Fight to Win belt at brown belt, and you had to give it out. Okay.
I won one, lost it to Vanessa Griffin in the gi, won the 170 welterweight, won it again, both against the same opponent, because one was in Denver versus Tara White, and they said I won on a hometown advantage. Then we went to her hometown, which was LA. I won it again. And then Maggie Grandotti beat me in, this was all at brown belt welterweight. Maggie Grandotti beat me in Miami, took the belt away. Then me and Stephanie Kopats went against it. I think that was at 65 or 60. I can't remember. And so Stephanie had the belt there. I lost it, but that was basically a back and forth scramble. She got a longer toe fold than my toe fold, like a really close match. She's awesome. And then they put me up for the title match in Denver in the welterweight again because it was vacated. And so I won it and lost it in the same night because I got my black belt right after I won it. So it goes back to vacated. So I haven't competed as black belt yet. I am going for a finisher's title next month.
Okay. You talked about a few different organizations earlier. You said IBJJF, you said ADC. Do you have a favorite rule set? Do you feel like your jiu-jitsu shines in one more than another?
I definitely am used to fight to win rules. I definitely have competed amongst them the most, like submission only or like slams, any leg attacks, anything goes. I'm fluent in that, and I feel I do best because of most time dealing with it. I would like to get better at the EBI rule set. I've entered in quite a few of them because there's a lot of things that I'm not entering just because I'm not training that way. Yeah. And so I want to open up my game a little bit. I want to open up my options and like where I'm getting booked and what I can enter in by being better at it. So I'm doing a bunch of those. And then ADCC is something I'm still learning. This is the first year I've tried. I tried the East Coast trials. Kendall wiped me out. She's awesome. Oh, yeah. It's the third time Kendall's beat me in very important matches. Kendall's incredible. And then I'm trying it, at West Coast. And I don't know if I play one better or worse. I'm just way more fluid in the like sub only matches without the EBI setting because I just have done them much more. But I don't know. I'm not in preference to any. I just like to fight.
Okay. We had you saw that I posted normally we get to post a little bit more. We were a little bit behind on confirming with you, and then normally we put out like our first request on a Monday. But we did get one from JM Flex JJ on Instagram. Said, "What are your overall goals for 2022?" And we did speak about that a little bit, but a little bit more specifically, if you could fast forward to the end of 2022, what would you think you'd be able to say about that journey? Like, I won the ADCC. What do you think you're going to look back on and where you? I
definitely think I'm going to do well at ADCC. I want to place in the top 3. I would love to place number 1. I'm going to put myself to the standard of the top 3. And then I want to win an MMA fight this year, and if not, have potential for starting my second one by the end of year. I really want to, my goals are to just become better through the process. I want to be one of the people that are like, oh, damn, Brittney Elkin's here today. Like, we're going to train hard. I want to set a standard for larger girls saying there's so many options. Like, we've been in this forever. We built this together. And I like to be a pioneer, so I want to try new things. But mostly my main goals are doing well in MMA, taking another fight, finishing a fight to win, and improving overall. I want to do more jiu-jitsu and, just get more subs. I don't want to scramble forever. I want to have I want to stop the matches due to me subbing them. So those are my goals, is be a sub machine. I'm going to be a sub machine.
and what do you see yourself on the other side of this? I know for me, I couldn't see my life without jiu-jitsu. I feel like I'm going to be, a 70-year-old guy still, putting on my belt. Yeah. Hopefully I'll have my black belt by then, putting on my belt and still going into the gym, even if it's to train or to coach, and maybe I'm not rolling so hard. Do you feel like that's going to be the same for you? Do you feel like there is a career inside of MMA and jiu-jitsu for you, whether it's on the mat or behind the scenes?
Absolutely. I'm going to be one of those people that will always be in the gym. It is a lifestyle for me. I do feel incomplete when I'm not doing what I love. I feel like whether I'm having a bad day, good day, in this emotional rut, the thing that levels that out is jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
More so than just private workouts or just being in shape. I feel like getting that exertion out and overcoming an obstacle, like a big guy smashing you out, and having the answer to this. And I will always be on the mat. I will always be trying to inspire also, like, anybody that wants to try to please go do it. And I always try to give good advice to the next generation, and be on the lookout for the up and comers. It's like we have to watch out for these kids coming up, and got to make sure they're not throwing themselves in an MMA fight after 3 months, even though I did it.
Don't do that.
Just things like that. I just want to be a good role model to the next generation, and I think that I'm on my way to doing that. So
I heard you talk a little bit. I listened to a podcast, and you talked a little bit about helping fighters like find sponsors and
yeah,
kind of behind the scenes stuff. Is that still something that you're looking to do?
I think that comes natural to me. I think people are like, they're drawn to like help me. And I'm like, you know what actually helps if we do this as a whole? I can get like 5 people behind us. And then as I'm doing it for myself, I like to teach them, because a lot of the younger generation, like, they're just waiting there for somebody to offer it to them. Yeah. And it's like, you have to go out there and get it. And it's kind of like if I was a coach, I could coach people into helping to like, this is where you got to go. This is what you got to do. You do have to market yourself a lot in the amateur stuff until you do have a name for yourself. And yeah, I think I'm good at that. I think I definitely am a person to at least give a direction to like the next people that want that. So
yeah, when we spoke to Kendall, she talked about, she says, I sent out, and she's at a Gracie Baja too, so she can't just wear any gi, but she talked about sending out like 30 messages to 30 different gi companies. And she's like, nobody got back to me. And then she said like 3 months later, she got a random reply from, I don't know the sponsor, but she still has them to this day. And she's like, I can't even wear their gi in my gym, and they still sponsored me because I can wear it on the mat. But at Gracie Baja, you have to wear their gear. So she talked about that. Like, and as a podcast, we're always, we're always talking to sponsors and bringing people in. And I agree. Yes, it's very difficult because, the first 4 emails or messages are going to get ignored if you don't have that stick-to-itiveness. You got to keep on going, and you can't feel that just because you don't hear back, don't take that as a rejection or like nobody's going to ever sponsor me. You really have to go after it, and she's really good about that. She's really like the business side of jiu-jitsu. She's awesome at that. We talked a lot about that. Actually, that podcast turned into like us talking about the business of jiu-jitsu and how she's navigated it, from her chair, growing up in a Gracie Baja, being a wrestler, and then now competing. So
I think you definitely have to have that. I think one of the best advice things is like, I remember getting a lower brand or like a non-known brand at the time. And I was kind of like, I'm not going to say the brand because I was kind of like sort of embarrassed that it wasn't good enough of a brand to represent. And then one of my coaches was like, you're going to grow with this brand. This brand's going to grow with you. And it ended up being really awesome. I'm only not with them now anymore because they had personal things and they had to close down, but they did grow a lot with me as I was growing, and I repped them and they helped me get through even that $300 when you're going, I know that sounds so little, but it enters you in these registrations for these little things. So like, these people, they're giving you offerings, but you also bring a lot back to them. You're bringing them exposure to them and stuff, and learning that skill is definitely a skill. And
fighters have to realize that they have to give something back. They have to bring something to the table. You can't just expect, it doesn't end when you get the package and you do an unboxing. You do an unboxing video. You have to, what are you going to give them back? What kind of commitment are you going to make to do, social media videos, pictures, include them in tutorial videos. Like, what are you really bringing to the table? And as somebody on both sides of that, because I've had a t-shirt company before, and I've had businesses where people have come to us and said, hey, I want a sponsor. And it's like, no following on social media. They just want the gear. And sometimes when little kids, I almost always send it to them. I'm like, here you go. Here's a shirt. But when people, hey, I'm looking for a sponsorship. I'm going to this event and I need them. It's probably not the right time when you're just going to the event. Now you're just looking for somebody to pay for it. What are you bringing to the table? So when you write that message and you're looking for a sponsor, you better include, hey, this is my record. This is what I'm looking to do this year. I'm going to be in this many competitions. I typically podium. Here's some pictures. I'm in the top 3 all the time. Like, you got to really bring something to the table. And I think that's what a lot of these young guys are lacking. And you said this before, a lot of times they're just waiting. They think that they're going to, I won. Where are the messages from all the sponsors? Where are my messages of people that want to give me money? That's exactly what, it's like almost like the way the platform is now is like they think they're going to go win a local tournament and all of a sudden, they're going to get like 3 no-gi rash guard sponsors. It's like, it doesn't really work that way. There's a lot of cold calling. There's a lot of like spending time like, hey, I'm Brittney, blah, blah, blah. There's an after gym, over gym. You meet these people. It's not always what you know, it's who you know. And you have to bring that together and find your way to market yourself through it. I mean, it is a skill I'm never not learning, but I think I've done better at it, especially
with my experience in so many fights and trying to develop these as continued sponsors, because it is hard to have them. I mean, it's hard to get these for long term. So if you're not one of the top in like the UFC or the PFL or like something like that, it's so yeah, I think you said it best, like right there. So
we've got a little speed round. These are about 5 or 6 questions that we ask almost every guest. And there's usually some variations based on the guest a little bit.
Unless they can beat us up.
Yeah. we're gonna go through this speed round. You can elaborate if you want. But okay. I'm gonna hit you with these questions, and then we'll see where this goes. Okay, so even though you kind of said before you're training, you're in no-gi most of the time now because of your path right now, but what's your preference, gi or no-gi?
No-gi.
If you weren't competing, it'd be no-gi still?
No-gi.
No-gi.
Yeah. Takedown or pull guard?
Takedown.
Okay. Favorite competitor to watch? MMA or jiu-jitsu, either side, or one from both?
God, that's so hard because it's just like 3,000 come to mind, especially being on the Fight to Win circuit. God, I love watching Valentina fight. So in MMA,
Shevchenko?
Yeah, I do. And there's just so many jiu-jitsu people that Kolabate is going to be amazing. I love watching. I've seen him since he was like a little kid.
Yeah.
I mean, because he was a Fight to Win when he was this little. So like, I'm just fascinated now.
You think he takes it all at ADCC?
I really do. We've been talking about it on Fight to Win since he was like this little orange belt.
Yeah.
And like, yeah, it's just insane.
He's a freaking badass.
I've been paying attention to him this year. So.
Yeah. I had a follow-up question on that. We went another direction. I was going to say something else there. Well, I'll remember it. So, so when I usually ask this right around the time that I ask this question. So I ask you your favorite competitor, but are you, I call it a consumer of jiu-jitsu and MMA? Like, you're doing it. Do you watch a lot of MMA? Do you watch a lot of UFC? Are you watching the Fight to Wins on Friday nights? Are you that person? Are you that girl?
So this is, I get picked on a lot by my boyfriend, actually. I never watch any fights unless it's like my friends personally fighting. I used to be a huge fan, but I feel like my life has taken over. I'm always in the gym training or working. And then my little private time I don't go, and I have internet, but I don't have a TV, and I just don't spend the money. Yeah, truly. But I am a fan of bold, beautiful fights. And I do watch I watch them always after. Yeah. I'm so cheesy, but no, I'm not like a super knowledgeable fan on like, I know what happened in this fight and I saw it all.
It's hard. There's so much. It's the PFL, Bellator, UFC, Fight to Win every week. You know, it's like it blows my mind. And like from a podcasting standpoint, I try to stay on top of it, especially if I'm going to have somebody who competes. But you can't possibly watch it all. I do love
find a way to be able to comment on every fighter. I'm like, sometimes they bring up a fighter that's super famous, and I'm like, who? I really feel like I've developed a lot of personal relationships with a lot of very good fighters. A lot of them are in the UFC, Bellator, all these names I could name off that are famous people that you would know. And I pay attention to their fights. But no, I'm probably the worst fan.
We had two kids and an adult on the last Fight to Win last week. So I watched those. My wife was just patiently waiting for me to hand her the remote, but I watched those 3, and then I pretty much like fell asleep after the adult. I was like, it's so much. There's so much jiu-jitsu. Like you can't watch it all. What
I have to say about that though is like we have to give ourselves a clap that there's so much you can't watch it all. When before it was like you watched everything and you couldn't find any more. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like so in 10 years, it's really the 10-year challenge of jiu-jitsu has really changed.
I mean, I've been doing this for 8 years now. Training jiu-jitsu, and I've just seen that kind of change. Like you can actually make money and make a living at this now, even just like for the jiu-jitsu side, being a competitor. And if you want to travel and you really want to make it, you can make a living at training. If you get sponsors, if you go to a lot of events, you know, maybe you're coaching, you do your seminars, like there's money in it now, where I remember in the beginning, I mean, it was just like, it just wasn't like this.
It's just way easier. There's just like more interest, like overall interest in it. So it's like, you have more students coming in. You need these people that have been in there more to be a productive leader to these students. So there's a value in your knowledge now, where before it was like, I think like in the old days, like a lot of people, this was curious still. It was like, is this the 80s karate? Is it the Karate Kid and all this stuff? And they didn't know what jiu-jitsu really was as a whole, where now it's like a pretty easy conversation to have with even somebody who's not in it. So it's like definitely, it's a better experience for all, I think.
Gotcha. Let's move on to the next question. So, what's the I'm going to ask this very specifically. I usually say, what's the craziest thing that's ever happened to you on the mats? But what's the craziest thing that's ever happened to you while you were traveling with Fight to Win?
Oh my God. So many things. I almost got us arrested in Jersey. We were all, okay, so everybody on the Fight to Win, not everybody, most people on the Fight to Win crew smoke weed. And like, it was freezing in Jersey. The Jersey Devil was out, and we all went and smoked in the Fight to Win truck. And I'm probably the worst driver ever. And like, they were like, cop, cop, cop. I don't know if this was the most craziest. It's just something that really stands out. And I was driving, like a whole crew of athletes was with us. I think a couple famous people were in the car. And the cops' sirens went on at this hot box, and I don't know why, but I pulled up on the curb and like went into a Denny's parking lot over the curb. I got us off. We didn't all get in trouble. He was just like, oh, so many crazy things. It's hard to even.
You did get pulled over. The cop still stopped you. He followed you in.
At the door, he's like, "What were you doing?" And I was like, "I'm scared."
Nothing.
I think we had like 9 people in the car too, so it's like kind of crazy. But that's a terrible story. I was driving last month.
No, I love it. That's perfect. Bo behind the camera loves that story.
Definitely. I mean, everything on Fight to Win is pretty crazy. Every weekend, you got these 5 people that look like they came from some punk band show up and start doing crazy things in the venue. I don't have an uncrazy moment, and I wish I had a little more time to give you a better story.
No worries. That's cool. I like that. You smoked weed and almost ran your van into a Denny's.
Yeah, it was
it always ends at a Denny's.
Yeah, right?
Yeah, there are just too many of them.
I have 2 more questions for you. So the first one is going to be, if you could go back in time and talk to yourself before the very first time you stepped onto the mats, before you took that first fight, what would you tell yourself?
It's all going to be okay. You're going to be fine. I think every single fight you put on so much pressure to perform well. And it's really like what built this to this pinnacle moment was all the stuff that made you grow in so many ways. You had to reach into new experiences to grow. I didn't know that in the beginning. I used to put so much on just the fight, and I just think I would just tell myself, everything's going to be okay tomorrow. It's all going to be okay. You can get through this. And I that might sound like a really cheesy line, but it is like very a lot of truth in that.
No, I in my world, and I'm in my day job, in my regular life, I'm like a marketing guy. I handle marketing for other people, for other companies. I just recently reopened my own marketing company, and I always tell people, just one foot in front of the other. People are so impatient and want things right now. Just one foot in front of the other. You're going to get through this. Tomorrow's going to come, whether you do anything about this, and you're going to get through this. It's not the end of the world. This issue, this problem, whether you decide to handle it right now or not, you're going to wake up in the morning and that problem's either going to be solved because you did the right thing, or you're going to have to deal with it at some point. So okay, last question. This is the biggest, the big one. This is the one that we tell everybody. This is the most important question that you are ever going to answer in your jiu-jitsu journey.
Okay.
Do you or do you not wash your jiu-jitsu belt?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Every time. I actually have, well, now with my black belt, I only have one, but I have a belt for every gi, and I hang them together and I throw them in the laundry together. And I just think it's a silly thing to not, it's like there's science,
Yeah.
There's real science.
Good. We have team wash your belt, and we do hashtag team wash your belt and hashtag the power's in the belt. And half of us wash it and the other half are stinky bastards.
I know, and I get like the old martial artist status, like don't wash your belt, but I do believe in washing your belt, and it's just disgusting if you never washed your socks. You know, if you never wash it, all that juice is on there from so many other juicy people.
Yeah, right.
I don't need to. It doesn't need to contain all the juice.
Yeah, right. All the sweat and the blood of your competitors. I don't believe in all that. Yeah. So, yes. All right, Brittney, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it. Like I said, stick around for a second, but I want to give you the floor. Do you have any sponsors currently that you'd like to shout out, or anybody you'd like to say hello to?
Right now, I'd really like to thank, 10th Planet Bethlehem and Finishers MMA in Pennsylvania. They're just helping me so much grow as a better practitioner. And I'm training at Logic at Statewide Muay Thai in Philadelphia. Logic Jiu Jitsu is under Christian Woodmansey, and he's giving me another look, a different opponent. And then Justin Rekrovich. I can never say his name right, but the Purple People Eater, he's a Muay Thai fighter. He has so many fights. He is giving me another look in my striking. So like all these people are opening new doors and new windows of thought to me. And that's really it. I don't have a sponsor right now. So all these marketing things we talked about, okay. I'm looking for sponsors always. But I kind of fell off after the Clarissa fight, and I stopped doing my due diligence on keeping that. So anybody interested? Other than that, I always like to give a shout out to my family, my mom and my son and my sisters and my dad. They've all been really close to me through this whole journey, and they went from not believing into me to saying that I'm the best. So there's a lot of loyalty in that, and my coaches. So that's it.
Right. Awesome. Awesome. All right. So again, thank you very much. Thank you. We appreciate you. And we'll get this out next week. We'll tag you when we put the episode out, and we really appreciate you joining us. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Take care.
Yeah, have a good night.
All right, very cool. Thank you, Brittney. Appreciate you coming on. What do you think, Bo?
Very cool. Yeah, it should beat the fucking snot out of me, man.
You were saying before, how tall are you?
I'm 5'10". She's 5'11", and she's fighting in a 155 class.
I think she walks around at like in 170s.
Dude, I'm 172. She would literally like flick me like crumbs off a table.
Probably.
Yeah. I like your confidence with that.
No, I have zero confidence in you up against her. I put all my money on Brittney.
Hands, man. I'm hands.
Let's do a little housekeeping, everybody. Shout out to our Patreon podcast patrons, including gym sponsors Carlson Gracie Winter Haven in Winter Haven, Florida. Check them out at cgwinterhaven.com or on Instagram at CarlsonGracie_Winter Haven. Carlson Gracie, Broward County in North Lauderdale. Shout out to Big J and his crew. Carlson Gracie, BrowardCounty.com or on IG at Carlson Gracie, Broward County. John Way Martial Arts in Plantation, Florida. JohnWayMartialArts.com and at John Way Martial Arts.
Black belt.
Our individual podcast patrons include Jebediah Berra, Robert Walker, Frank House, Boa Athletics. Check them out on IG at BOA_athletics. Jason Smiley, CJ Carroll, Mission 22, Chuck Reddoor, and Roberto Santiago. If you'd like to support the show, visit us at patreon.com/Jiu Jitsu Dummies. Join and you're automatically entered to win up to $100 in Jiu Jitsu swag every single month. We also include, if you send us a question that we use on the show, you're also included automatically in that drawing as well.
Like, does Milton wear a cup during the show?
During the show? No.
Need protected.
Check us out at Jiu Jitsu Dummies on IG for all the ways to watch, listen, and support the show. You can donate to our scholarship program there. We'll donate we award one-year scholarships to veterans, first responders, or just amazing kids, people doing cool things in their community. Don't forget, check out the GoFundMe for John Carlos, a friend of mine, old training partner who's battling cancer. If you guys could help us out, donate anything, we'd really appreciate it. If you donate $100 or more, send me a copy of your receipt, reach out. I'm going to send you a podcast mug. All right. Shout out to Fightback CBD. Get 20% off your CBD order at fightbackcbd.com with code JJD. You got anything else, Bo?
What the hell are you drinking over there, man?
This is our Raise Energy. This one is guava mango. This is freaking delicious.
It's the table?
Yes, yeah. So we are attempting to do a little something with Raise Energy. They're looking for people to help them promote them on TikTok specifically. So we've been including them on the set. We've been doing a couple of videos. You could check us out on our TikTok at Jiu Jitsu Dummies Podcast. Totally written out, right? Everything. IG is Jiu Jitsu Dummies. TikTok is Jiu Jitsu Dummies Podcast. And we've been taking this content and doing putting out some cool videos, and hopefully they'll do a little something to support the show.
They sponsor my OnlyFans page?
No. Not at all. I don't even think I wouldn't sponsor. I will not be a member. But how is it? Is it good? This is my second. I've been saving them to drink them on the show, the ones that we bought. So I very specifically drank them on the show.
Guzzling.
They did send us a whole bunch of pre-workouts, and so I've been using them, adding them to my water for the gym. They've been amazing. So these little packets, I've been using.
Do you know if Miguel, while he's had COVID, has made the pancakes?
I have the pancakes. I have the pancake mix. He took the cupcake mix, and he did make them, but I didn't get any feedback from him because then he got sick and he got COVID. But this is my second Raise Energy drink, and it is really, really good. This is pretty much empty. They're freaking delicious.
Oh, you're actually drinking them.
I'm actually drinking them.
I thought you were faking an empty can, bro.
I'm actually drinking them. I'm actually drinking them. There's still a little in there. I've had, got Red Bulls and Monsters and things like that. I've never really drank an energy drink that had these kind of fruity flavors.
Really?
It's all been just those Monster.
That's what I don't like about energy drinks. They all taste like Red Bull. It's
I can't remember having an energy drink that was a fruit flavored.
It tastes version. Like when you stick your finger in the outlet and you get that metallic flavor in your mouth.
It tastes like a juice. It tastes like a juice.
That actually is a beverage.
You know that I usually show up at the studio and have a coffee.
Yeah.
I always have a coffee. The last two, I've just had this, and I feel great. And I know too. When I drove home last time, I was just I was wide awake.
300 miles an hour. Yeah, these are working.
Well, anyway, we're trying to show them, what we could do and feature them on the show and just have them on set. So hopefully, Raise Energy. We'd love to talk to you guys more about doing something.
We'll do a song and dance for.
Yeah.
Special thanks to our newest sponsor, George Hernandez Claims Adjuster. Have you experienced damage to your residential or commercial property in the state of Florida? Water, flood, fire, mold, storms, smoke, hurricane and wind, lightning, business interruption, theft and vandalism, sinkholes? Don't get stressed out dealing with your insurance provider. Call George Hernandez today. Let the professionals get you the most compensation possible. Visit HernandezClaims.com or call 305-712-6751 to get help now. And stay in touch with them on Instagram at Hernandez Claims.
All right, everybody. Thank you for watching and listening. Check me out at Uncle Milty BJJ on IG. If I forgot to say that, Bo, handle?
At Badworks, BADWERKS.
All right. We appreciate you guys tuning in.
Thank
Peace,
you.
love, jiu-jitsu, baby. Oos. No, that's the old one, right?